Hey guys, what's going on? Hayden here. I am here for my Game of the Year discussion, but I am actually not alone this time. This is my first collaborative video that I'm doing on YouTube, and I'm joined by my friend SuperSmash77. Go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
Yo, SuperSmash77 here. You probably have never heard of me, and that probably won't change today.
Hey, well, you know what? People will definitely be checking you out after this. So, really happy to have you here. Thanks for coming on the show, man.
No problem.
So yeah, Game of the Year. So this is something that a lot of people kind of do on YouTube. I'm a really small channel. You're a small channel. Nothing wrong with that. But I thought, hey, let's get someone else on the channel to talk about our favorite games this year. Because I think between the two of us, there might have been some overlap, but also some differences that we've played. So I just kind of want to see what we've chosen. So both of us have chosen our top 3 games this year. And we'll kind of go back and forth, talking about our number 3s, then our number 2s, then our number 1s. And I know I totally ripped this off Game Explain, but I love the format, so that's what we're going with. And then afterwards, we'll kind of give some honorable mentions. So this year was interesting because 2016, depending on if you were a Nintendo fan or if you were a Sony fan or an Xbox or PC fan, could have been a very good year, or let's be real, if you were a Nintendo fan, a not so good year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can both agree on that. So, with that said, though, let's start with your number 3.
So my number 3 is actually Fire Emblem Fates. So I definitely think that Fire Emblem Fates is a bit of a step down from the previous game, which was Awakening. But I don't know, I kind of liked it for weird reasons. Like, for one, the game actually has feet, unlike Awakening, which might seem like a small thing, but it really does change the game somehow. But it actually did improve on gameplay a lot, which is something that Awakening did struggle with a bit. But the story is definitely weaker than Awakening, which, you know, I kind of play Fire Emblem for the story a bit, so that was a tad disappointing. But I do like how they fleshed out Corrin a little bit more, I think, than Robin. Yeah.
So, yeah, I never actually played, the only Fire Emblem game I've ever played was the first American one on the Game Boy Advance, and that was like a long, long time ago. It's just, those games are such a time investment. Like, I had a lot of fun with it, but there's such a time investment. And Fire Emblem Fates came out, what, February this year?
Yes.
That was like one of the busiest times in my life with school and whatnot and work. And there was no way I could try and play that game, because it was actually something I was interested in, because I started playing Corrin in Smash Brothers, and I actually love Corrin. But I don't know, I never really got into it. But I've heard pretty much the same things that you kind of said right there, is that the graphical fidelity is a bit better, but the story was a little weaker than Fire Emblem Awakening.
Yeah.
Still not a terrible game, but yeah. Did you play all 3 versions or just a particular one?
I've only played Birthright so far, but I do intend on some point in playing Conquest, and I believe it's Revelations.
Yes. Yeah, I haven't heard much about Revelations, mostly because that kind of came afterwards, as far as I'm aware. Or was it a pack-in? I forget.
I believe if you bought the collector's edition, you got it day 1, but if you didn't, you had to wait like a month and buy it as DLC.
Okay. Yeah, I heard that Conquest is brutally hard.
Yeah.
And I think people were kind of split on that. Some people liked that version better because of that. Some people didn't like that version better because of that.
Well, the thing I've heard is that while Conquest was harder, the story, although it was already kind of weaker than Awakening, is even weaker in Conquest.
Oh.
So,
huh.
Yeah.
Well, Fire Emblem Fates. I don't know. Maybe I'll go back to it, but the Switch is coming up pretty soon, and there's going to be a lot of games coming out, and there's still a lot of games I'm looking forward to in 2017, like, you know, Yooka-Laylee, Zelda. So, like, I don't know if I'm going to have the time to play this. But, yeah, so Fire Emblem Fates, nice.
Yeah.
My number 3 is Shantae Half Genie Hero. So, this game is kind of weird. I never actually got into the Shantae series until, like, this summer. I was really bored one day, looked on the eShop, and Risky's Revenge was on sale on the eShop. And I played it, and it was good. It was an alright game. And then I downloaded Pirate's Curse, because I heard a lot of people were praising this game, like, oh my god, it's so good. And Pirate's Curse is one of my favorite 2D platformers of all time. It's super awesome. So then, Half Genie Hero, I was really excited about it. I obviously missed the Kickstarter, because that started like 2 years ago or something.
Yeah.
But I played it. I actually just beat it today. And you know what? It was pretty good. There's some flaws with it. Like, first of all, I'll go over the good stuff first. The platforming is really awesome. And this game actually, I would almost say if Metroid and Mega Man had like a baby, that's what kind of game this is. Because it's not your typical Metroidvania game like the other Shantae games are. You're not exploring dungeons and you're not like, it's not one big interconnected world. But instead, it's a series of platforming levels with a beginning and an end. And there's a bunch of secrets scattered throughout. So this game focused a lot more on the platforming side of Shantae, which was good. It was actually a nice change of pace. They did it really well. The transformations, they added a lot of variety into the levels. The magic goes back to the traditional Shantae series, or the traditional Shantae games with like Risky's Revenge. You have a magic meter. The art style, oh my god, like the visuals are amazing. That is like how you make a 2D platformer look. It's so good. Jake Kaufman nailed the music again. But I do have a few issues with the game. I felt like there was a little bit lacking in content with the whole... let me rephrase that. They're not supposed to be big games. Shantae games are not supposed to be huge games full of lots of unlockables, but I just felt like a lot of things were underutilized and there was a lot less potential in the game. For example, there's like maybe 3 transformations out of the 12 that are actually useful in more than one situation. And I thought the story was a little weaker than Pirate's Curse, but overall it was still a really good game.
Now, I've heard a lot about Shantae in the past few years, and really it's only been nothing but good. But, you know, being an indie game, I definitely can understand where you're coming from with lack of content, especially after seeing something like Shovel Knight, which is continuously giving free DLC after free DLC. But Shantae is definitely something I want to try and play. It's been something in my backlog for a long time, and I've just never gotten around to it, but I might soon now. Nice.
I would say Shantae Half Genie Hero, I would say, it's a good game to start. If you want to get into the Shantae series, this is definitely an alright one to start with. I wouldn't start with Pirate's Curse, just because it's so much different than a traditional Shantae game, because you don't have your transformations in that game.
Yeah.
But I still think that one's the best one. Half Genie Hero, though, again, like, it's still a really solid game. Like, I don't like giving numerical scores for a game, but if you had to hold a gun to my head, I would give it like an 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
Like, again, the platforming's really good. The visuals are amazing. The music is awesome. The humor, I don't know if you're aware of the humor in Shantae games, but it's pretty awesome. It's like really Saturday morning cartoony. It breaks the fourth wall all the time. The characters just get themselves into these really fun situations. But I just thought that, like, it felt almost like 95% finished opposed to 100% finished.
Yeah. That seems to be a current theme with this generation, unfortunately.
Yeah, the DLC curse.
But moving on into my number 2.
There
was a lot of good fighting games that came out this year, like Guilty Gear or even Pokken. I know that one's kind of a mixed bag for some people, but I personally liked it. But I'm actually going to give it to my number 2 to King of Fighters 14. Now, I am no veteran in the King of Fighters series. This is actually my second game, technically. And it's probably not the best fighting game that came out this year. You know, I'd have to give that to Guilty Gear. But the reason I want to put this on my list rather than Guilty Gear is because the developers have just shown so much love for this game. You know, it had a little bit of a rocky start at launch. The online was kind of broken. But within about 3 days, they fixed that. And the main big problem with the game is the graphics were utterly terrible. But now in June, they are actually updating the graphics and they look a whole lot better. And it's just such a rare thing to see a company support a game so much that didn't even sell that well. You know, because all things considered, something like Street Fighter V, even though that didn't sell that well, sold way more, and Capcom could be doing better with it.
Huh. And so I actually have never even heard of this game. I'm totally sorry. I'm looking it up right now on Google, and the box art is not even ringing any bells for me. But I do see a picture here of the graphics comparison that you were just talking about.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's a niche game for sure. But
when did it come out this year?
It came out about August, I believe, sometime during the summer.
August. Okay. Again, that was like I pretty much jumped right out of school into a really busy job this summer, and if you see my upload schedule on YouTube, I didn't make a lot of videos this summer. I really wasn't keeping up with anything. Maybe I would have heard about it if I was less busy. Did they show it off at all at E3?
I don't think they had a big trailer or anything. If they did, it was probably just people complaining about the graphics, so...
Damn. So, niche game. It's pretty much original characters, right?
Yeah.
Okay. If you're liking fighting games, Marvel vs. Capcom's looking pretty sweet so far. Mega Man X.
Yeah.
God, I love Mega Man X.
I'm just hoping for Vile.
But yeah, let's here. I'll go into my number 2 now. I wish I could contribute more on that one, but I really don't. know
I wasn't expecting much. Not many people know about this game, unfortunately.
But yeah, my number 2. So my number 2 is, you know what? Like, this is really, I can't believe I'm even saying this, because like 6-7 months ago, I was not interested in this game at all. I didn't care about it. Paper Mario Color Splash is my number 2.
Ooh.
Yeah. So this game really blew me away. Like, this game. So for the record, I have only played the original Paper Mario. I have not played the Thousand Year Door. I don't plan on playing Super Paper Mario or Sticker Star.
Good.
But Thousand Year Door, I definitely need to get around to it. But Color Splash, not perfect, but a really standout game, I think. I think this is the perfect way to end the Wii U's legacy with the last version, with the last console exclusive. You know, the visuals, like, this might be my favorite looking game on the Wii U. Like, they went all out with the papercraft art style. Like, everything just looks like something that you could make in real life at a craft. Like, I just love that about the game. The humor, like, this is also, like, I don't care. This is the best script I have ever read in a video game ever. It is so full of personality, humor. Like, I have never played a game where I was literally laughing out loud the whole way through. Like, I don't know how they did it, but they squeezed, like, every little bit of creativity they could into each line of dialogue. And it's just something, it's so good. Like, exploring the world, too. Like, Prism Island is an awesome place to explore. Filling in the colorless spots in the world is actually a very rewarding task, and it's something that completionists, I'm a completionist, I like to think of myself as one anyway. It's something that's going to be really fun to go back and complete, because there's still a lot of stuff I'm missing. Now, here's the part that's kind of dragging it down for me a little bit. The battle system is still kind of flawed. Now, I've never played Sticker Star, but I've heard the problems with Sticker Star's battle system, how there's no experience for it, so there's really no point in doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the stickers, like, sometimes you might not have the appropriate stickers for the appropriate enemies and whatnot. Well, they fixed the problem of experience in this game, and that you get hammer points. So every time you defeat an enemy, or a group of enemies, you get hammer points, which can increase the amount of paint you hold. Which, it's good that there's an experience system at all, but I never really found myself running low on paint. The game does, if you haven't played it at all, I won't spoil anything, but the game does pretty, like, easy. The game is always giving you paint, I should say. And you can always buy, so I'm getting ahead of myself. The cards are no different than the stickers from what I can tell. Either you have the right cards or you don't. And if you don't have the right cards, you can do a little mini game in the battle to possibly get the right card. It's like a roulette thing. But if you still don't have the right card, you either have to flee or just wait for yourself to be killed. And then there's also the fact that, like, the economy is a little broken in that game. You have, throughout the entire game, I had way too much money. You can always buy more cards, but then you have to leave the area and get back to where you're going to be. I guess what I'm trying to say is the battle system is flawed. They kind of fixed it with the whole getting experience, but it's not perfect.
Yeah. I mean, I actually do own the game, but I have just been kind of busy with other games, so I never got the chance to play it yet. And I was kind of in the bandwagon that, I don't really want this game. It's not Thousand Year Door 2. But, over time, I really saw that this game actually is kind of a worthy successor to Thousand Year Door. I mean, it's still not as good just from what I've seen. Like you said, there are flaws with the battle system. And I still kind of have a problem that it's a world map rather than just an open world. That was one thing I really liked about Paper Mario. But the dialogue, like you said, just seems super funny and super good, especially with, no offense, the Treehouse localization team has been kind of iffy this year,
Yeah.
They've been going a little bit too meme heavy. But, it seems kind of like a surprise title because their first trailer for the game was probably one of the worst trailers to represent a game I've ever seen.
God, right?
Yeah.
Well, so you touched on two things I kind of want to talk about there. One, so the dialogue in this game, the text and whatnot, yeah, there is some sort of like, if you're very competent on social media and memes and whatnot, there is some kind of references that lean towards that way. But there's also some seriously awesome references to the Mario series in general. Like, a lot of casual fans who are just playing this game because they want to play it probably wouldn't pick up on it, and probably a bunch of little kids wouldn't pick up on it too. But there were so many clever little references. Like, I really don't want to spoil any of them here because they're just that good. They're so like, oh my god, like, did they really just say that? Or like, oh my god, like, that is so clever. That is so awesome. Like, again, I can't stress enough. This is the funniest and most creative dialogue I've ever seen in a video game. Not just Nintendo-wise, like any game, period. But you also touched on the whole world map thing. Have you ever played Super Mario RPG?
Yeah, it's about 50%.
Okay, so you know how it had that map in it?
Yeah.
Honestly, so Color Splash does the exact same thing. It has a map system. I really don't think that hurt the game at all, and I think actually it really helped it. So again, I've never played the Thousand Year Door, but I did play the original Paper Mario, and I can see where you're coming from, where you'd want this whole big, huge, interconnected world. But I think with Color Splash, like, so you don't have chapters in Color Splash anymore. Instead, you have like each level, and each level takes 45 minutes to an hour, I would say, and there's over 30 of them. But just because they're separate levels doesn't mean that there's not a feeling of interconnectedness. Like, there's most of the time, if not all the time, something you do in a level will have a direct effect on a different level. And, like, for example, there's one part in the game where you have to, there's a train that's broken down, and you have to fix it, and you have to get it to its destination, which is, like, 3 levels away. So you're, like, working alongside this train throughout this series of levels to get it to its destination. So it's almost like a chapter in Paper Mario or the Thousand Year Door. So I actually think the map system worked pretty well. It also is just, this is kind of a little aesthetic thing, but it's also really satisfying because every time you beat a level, more of the map gets colored, and it's just really satisfying to kind of see that map get colored in and all. But yeah.
I'm glad to hear they improved on the Sticker Star map. Ooh.
Again, I never played Sticker Star, but that map just, like, again, I've only seen, like, video footage, but, like, it just looked so uninteresting and so... Ugh.
Yeah.
Did you play Sticker Star?
I played and completed it somehow.
Oh, you poor soul. I wish there was a way you could get those hours of your life back.
I wish.
Yeah, no, Color Splash, it really took me by surprise, but the only like, I guess there's one other little problem I'll say, and that's that this game goes Toad overload. Nintendo has some sort of weird fetish with Toads or something.
Yeah.
Because, like, there are so many goddamn Toads in this game, and there's very few that are actually, like, in costume or distinguished from each other. Like, you meet a lot of awesome Toads along the way. They just have no, like, aesthetic distinguish, like, anything to distinguish them from another red or another blue, green Toad. Like, I wish they had done a little more with, like, the outfits and the costumes, but,
Yeah, I mean, I understand that, Miyamoto doesn't really want them using any characters that aren't commonly found in the Mushroom Kingdom, but I definitely feel like they could have just made all the Toads look somewhat different. Like, the only Toads that I've ever seen that really look that different are, like, the Power Ranger Toads or whatever.
Yeah. Like, see, that's the weird thing, because, yeah, like Miyamoto said, he doesn't want any original characters, and while there aren't any, like, original, like, everything is based off a Mushroom Kingdom character, but there's a few Toads that, excuse me, I just had my supper. There's a few Toads that, like, some of them have really cool costumes, like, and again, far and few between are there actually creative costume Toads. But then there's so many that just should have costumes and don't. Like, for example, like, there's this crew of pirate Toads. I won't say much on them. But the captain has, like, a pirate hat and a sword and whatever. But the other, like, his crew aren't dressed up at all. So it's like, what? Like, I don't know. But, again, Color Splash, really good game. Obviously a good game. Made my number 2. But yeah, let's move on to our number 1. So what's your game of the year, man?
It is actually kind of surprised to me myself, but it is Pokemon Sun and Moon. So, I admit I have not played many in the mainline Pokemon games, but something about Sun and Moon just I love so much. Mainly the story, which is kind of surprising for a Pokemon game with me. But all the characters just seem so likable, and I really wanted to see where their story went. And while the game didn't have too many gameplay changes, I felt like it had just enough and the right changes to really make the gameplay feel fresh, new, and fixed to some extent from X and Y.
Mm-hmm. So you actually just stole my thunder, because that is also my game of the year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally agree with you. The game is a very nice blend of familiarity and similarity to the past entries. They made a lot of smart changes in this game, I think. And I think it was the right time to do so, because the mainline series, as you said, was starting to get, or I don't know if you said this or not, but it was starting to get a little stale, especially X and Y. X and Y is actually one of my least favorite entries in the entire series. Not to say it's a bad game. I enjoy all the mainline Pokemon games, but X and Y is a low point for me. But yeah, the fact that there's no more HMs anymore. Like, the trials are very, like, I love how they change up the pace, or they kind of change up your logic with your adventure, as in, like, you never really know what you're going to be doing next. You're not going to some, like, manufactured gym. You know, you're actually doing something, like, natural that feels like a natural part of Alola.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like with this game they were really making it for fans who have been with the series for a long time, and especially for people that have not played Pokemon since Gen 1, and they really just make it work in every way.
Yeah, like, this is a very big love letter to Pokemon fans, and a very good way to get new Pokemon fans into it. And I think this is actually a really clever time to release Sun and Moon, because, you know, you had Pokemon Go in the summer, which got so many people who would never even touch a Pokemon game into Pokemon. And while we don't have exact statistics on how many new players played Sun and Moon, I have a feeling that Pokemon Go was definitely a big reason for some people picking up Sun and Moon. And you're right, they made it very accessible. You know, the fact that you can look at a move and see if it's effective, super effective, and whatnot. Like, they just made a lot of good choices for this game.
Yeah. I really don't even have anything else to say on it. There's not really much I can complain about. I mean, I guess there's always the age-old complaint, which is it's not hard. But I don't really know how many people play Pokemon for a hard experience in the first place.
So, did you play with the experience share on?
Yeah.
So I actually didn't. I didn't do that in X and Y or Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire either. And X and Y and Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, regardless of if you used it or not, were both very easy games. I didn't use the experience share in Sun and Moon, and while it wasn't hard for a long time, I would say the last third of the game or so actually gave me trouble. Like, I actually died a few times in this game, which I can't remember the last time that's happened to me in a mainline Pokemon game.
Yeah.
But I just got to talk about the story real quick too, because you touched on it. This is by far my favorite story in a mainline Pokemon game. They really, like, committed to that theme of, like, love and family and friendship and whatnot. And, like, you see that throughout the entire game. Alola is just such a positive place to be. It's just if I was to live in the Pokemon world, I'd move to Alola.
Yeah. I mean, I was not expecting to like Lily and her family as much as I was, you know, just based on the trailers. But she honestly is probably my favorite character of that game.
I think so too. Lily was a really standout character. Now, I'm just hoping that the anime gets her right too, because they've got high standards to live up to after Serena.
Yeah. My only real problem with the story is that there wasn't really a rival at all. You know, the only rival we do have is not even really a rival. So.
Yeah, how? They kind of do the friend thing again, which I don't like. I want someone like Blue or Silver. Like, those two rivals are still the best rivals, in my opinion, in the entire Pokemon series. And I don't think many people will argue that.
Yeah.
And I do hear a complaint that the opening of the game was really slow and that there's too many cutscenes. But I went into that game knowing, not knowing, but I had a feeling that, like, yeah, there's going to be a tutorial, like, there's going to be a long opening, because they're going to want, you never know, this could be someone's first Pokemon game. I didn't think it was that bad. Maybe I was just caught up in the whole hype, like, oh my god, I'm actually playing this game. But I thought that it was, again, yeah, it wasn't, like, great, but it didn't kill my experience of the game at all.
Yeah, I mean, my personal opinion on it is I was just shocked that we had non-in-game graphic cutscenes. Um, but you had to keep in mind, like I said, they're kind of making this game for people that haven't played since Gen 1, so it's kind of understandable that the tutorial is that long.
Yeah, a lot like while a lot has stayed the same, like if you look at the grand scheme of things, there have been a lot of tiny tweaks throughout for the Pokemon formula over the last, well, I guess 20 years.
Yeah.
So it's definitely good that they did that, and it is like they did have to do that. It's hilarious though. Like this game is absolutely pushing the 3DS to the limit.
Oh, yeah.
Like Battle Royale, what was it? Me and my friend were doing a Battle Royale, and we brought all Moltres in. I don't know if you know the joke about Moltres, but it is look up like any Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire Wi-Fi battle, like triple Moltres. Moltres for some reason is the Pokemon that slows the game down the most. So like any Moltres that's on the field is going to slow the game down. I swear to God, it was running at like 5 frames per second.
Ooh. I'm hoping...
But yeah, overall, sorry, what were you going to say?
Oh, no, I was just going to say I'm hoping that Pokemon Stars rumor is real so we can have it on some higher quality, hardware. I just paused.
Yeah, because this entry could have definitely benefited from some better hardware, because Pokemon Stars, like if it's true, which I'm on the side that it is true. Like I'm pretty convinced that it is true. If that is coming to the Switch, not only is that going to be good for the Switch sales-wise, but that's going to be an amazing looking game. Because Sun and Moon, like especially the Pokemon models on the 3DS, they look pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Like I would love to see a Lola in HD. But yeah, so those are our top 3. You want to go through some honorable mentions real quick?
Yeah, sure. You want to go first, or should I start?
I'll go first. So I don't have many, because this year was kind of weird for me, because I didn't play a lot of 2016 releases, mostly because I only own a Wii U, and a 3DS. But also, I was busy, and there just weren't a lot of games that interested me, but I played a lot of backlog games. But for 2016 releases, Pokken Tournament, I think you mentioned it earlier, I'm going to give that an honorable mention, because I actually enjoyed that game. I thought it was pretty good. Here's the weird thing about Pokken. It had a lot of content in the places I didn't care about, and it didn't have a lot of content in the places I did care about. For example, there was a lot of character customization, like a stupid amount of character customization. But there was only 16 playable Pokemon. When Pokken Tournament came out, there were over 600 Pokemon to choose from. Or was there over 700? Yeah, I think there was over 700.
Yeah.
I would have loved to see maybe 25. I think that would be a pretty solid amount. But I mean, it's a great direction for if this is going to be like a side series that Nintendo keeps, or I guess Namco keeps doing. I think it's a good step in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, I just like how easy the game is to like just pick up and play. But I do agree with the roster. I mean, I'm sure there are still a lot of people salty that they got Wrestler Pikachu instead of Halucha.
Yeah, oh, that was such a missed opportunity in my opinion.
But no, I'm still waiting for the DLC to come to console someday. But
see, what I think is more likely, because the Wii U is, I hate to say this, but the Wii U is dead. I hate people saying that, but it basically is. I think if we're going to see that DLC in console form, it'll be on a Switch port. I don't think they're going to put that investment into a dead console.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm personally fine with that, as long as there are some console exclusive characters as well.
Yeah.
Like maybe a Gen 7 Pokemon.
Yeah, oh my god, give me, Decidueye.
My top pick would actually probably be, I forget his name, but it's Type Null's evolution.
Oh, Silvally.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool, like, because I guess we don't have, like, a multi-type, because that's his whole gimmick, is that he can change types, so I wonder what they would do with him. That's a cool idea, though.
Yeah. Now, my first honorable mention is going to be actually Final Fantasy 15. So, I have not been looking forward to this game nearly as long as some people waiting more than 10 years. I've been waiting about 2 to 3. And the game is really good. I did enjoy it, but my main problem with it is, one, the battle system. Offense is pretty good, but defense is bad in the way that basically you can't go from like attacking someone instantly into defense. If you're attacking someone but you need to block, you basically had to wait to stop attacking or just get hit. And
Oh.
it breaks the experience. It doesn't make it feel as smooth. And the story was really good and a little bad in some ways. Like the character and the character development was really good, but I felt like the overall payout, the ending could have been better. I mean, I definitely liked it, but I felt unsatisfied in the end.
Huh. So, yeah, your opinion seems pretty universal from what I've been reading. This is a game I haven't been following. I mean, I've been following it in the sense that if I'm listening to someone else talk about it on YouTube or whatever, like I'll listen to what they have to say. But it's not a game that I was following because I'm not huge in the Final Fantasy series. But I guess this game has really suffered from a 10-year development cycle because you could probably confirm this, but I've heard that there's a lot of areas in the game where like they should have shown on screen a story event, but it happened off screen.
Yeah.
Is that kind of true? Yeah, like I heard there was like a character death that happened off screen. Like
Yes, so basically I think the reason why this happened is because originally the director of the game was actually the guy who makes and directs the Kingdom Hearts series, but then he kind of left and someone new came over it and watched over it. I forget his name at the moment. And that's basically where it went from Versus 13 to 15, and I think that definitely hurt the game overall a little bit by them doing that.
Yeah. That makes sense. Like, when you have too many hands in the pot, or you just, like, again, switch over like that, it can become a real mess of a game. I mean, Super Smash Bros. Brawl is a perfect example. That had, like, 9 companies working on that game.
Yeah.
But yeah, Final Fantasy 15, the characters, like, Noxus and his gang look awesome. They look like such a, like, close group of friends. And I've seen, like, little gameplay snippets here and there, and just, like, seeing them interact with each other and talking to each other, like, they say some pretty awesome things.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the overall story is a little weak, but I feel like the main cast of characters that you really see are super fleshed out. And as weird as it may seem, they're actually adding and fixing more story things and plot holes through free updates and paid DLC. So who knows, in a year, the story might actually be really good.
Huh. Yeah. All right. Well, I have just one more honorable mention. If you've got a few more, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
I've only got one more honorable mention. Again, I didn't play many games this year, but Star Fox Zero. I was also going to say Twilight Princess HD, but it's a remake, so I'm not going to count it. But Star Fox Zero, I think it gets more hate than it deserves. Yes, there are some serious problems with the game, but I think it gets a way worse reputation than it deserves. Honestly, the controls, again, this is very subjective. It depends on your skill level as a gamer. I didn't find them that hard to pick up. Once I was halfway through the main campaign, I actually felt pretty comfortable with the controls. Once I completed the main campaign, I felt like I had mastered them. And that's when it was really fun to start replaying these levels and finding secret exits and whatnot. Now, it's also kind of interesting for me because I am coming from probably an unpopular demographic where I've only ever played Star Fox 64 at a very young age at a friend's house. I've never actually owned it, so I'm not very familiar with the game. But I can see that it is a very, very much so a rehashing of Star Fox 64 with weird controls. But I think, honestly, once you get the hang of the controls, it's a lot of fun to replay these levels and go for high scores, whether you're going for a point total or a time total. It's just a matter of that learning curve.
Now, I have not played a lot of Star Fox Zero, but I feel like the almost perfect comparison here is it's kind of the Wii U's Kid Icarus Uprising. A really good game that's brought down by controls.
So yeah, I never actually got to play Kid Icarus Uprising, but I heard the controls were, pretty janky, and especially if you've got big hands, because I heard that game is just a hand cramp waiting to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I hope and pray to God that Kid Icarus Uprising gets a HD remake or something on Switch.
Yeah, I would love to see that too, because I've only played the original Kid Icarus, and I've never even beaten it because that game is hard as balls. But like Pit and Palutena and Dark Pit, like in Smash Brothers, alone have so much personality to them, which makes me want to play Kid Icarus Uprising. But then I hear about the controls.
Yeah, I mean, basically, the controls would actually be really good if the 3DS had one extra, like, analog stick.
Yeah. And that's honestly, that's why I think the Wii U is actually a really good fit for Star Fox Zero, because it's essentially like it's a two-screen, two-stick shooter. Like you've got one stick for moving, and you've got one stick for your commands, like your barrel rolls, the meme and whatnot, your backwards flying and whatnot, and then you use the trigger to shoot. Which I thought a lot of people actually complained about that online because people are used to pressing A, I guess, in Star Fox 64. But I don't know. I thought the trigger worked pretty well.
No, I thought the trigger was the least of the game's control problems.
Yeah, exactly. And I won't spoil it here because again, it's a fairly new game. Don't try and go for all of the medals. It is not worth it. the reward that you get for getting them all, not worth it in the slightest.
Ouch. I'm gonna assume it's like a new R-wing color or something.
Well, I won't say anything, but it's not worth it.
Yeah.
If you want to look it up, you can.
So now my last, I guess, two honorable mentions, but one of them isn't actually an honorable mention. The fake one is Kingdom Hearts 2.8. Despite that not coming out until next month, it should have been out this month. But of course, Final Fantasy 15 messed that up, and now we don't have a worldwide release date for that anymore. So, I'm just gonna shout that out.
Does anything ever come out in that series anymore? Like,
yeah.
But what's your other honorable mention?
Despite me kind of hating on it earlier, Street Fighter V. It does a lot wrong, has a lot of problems since launch. But I do firmly believe this is one of the best fighting games for beginners. It's what got me into the genre really hard. And I can appreciate it for that fact alone.
Nice. Yeah, so I've heard that, like, if you're playing, like, competitively, it's a great game. It's super awesome. The battle system, I guess, is really, I guess it's tweaked to a really, a good state, I guess. I don't know if it's perfect. I haven't followed the game that much. But it seems like the single-player content and the roster is what's kind of making people angry.
Yeah, I mean, for hardcore fans, even, they have a couple problems with the battle system, or the combat system, whatever you really want to call it. But overall, it's pretty good, but they completely missed the mark for casuals. And I don't think they're ever going to get it back for Street Fighter V until the next mainline sequel.
Dang, that blows. Because didn't Street Fighter 4, again, I haven't really followed the series that much, but didn't Street Fighter 4 have a pretty robust roster?
Yeah, it had a really big roster. I think at the end of it, which was like maybe 2010 to 2012, it had about 40 characters.
Wow. Okay, that's really big. Huh. And I heard the plot was, again, haven't followed it that much, but I heard it was pretty good. There's like a Dark Ryu or something.
Yeah, Evil Ryu. The plot for Street Fighter 4 is much, much better than Street Fighter 5's.
Okay. Nice. Well, is that all?
Yeah, that's all I got.
Awesome. Well, that's it for us, guys. So thank you for listening. Tell them where they can find you, man.
You can find me at my channel, SuperSmash77. You can usually just search that and find it. Or don't. I mean, it's your choice, of course. Free will.
And, yeah, so I'll leave links for that in the description. You have Twitter, too. If you want, I'll leave that in the description.
Oh, yeah, you can.
Yeah. Cool, sweet. So yeah, thank you so much for joining. If you enjoyed the video, of course, please leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more on usually Nintendo stuff, maybe more Game of the Year stuff come next year. And make sure you tell me in the comments, or tell us in the comments rather, what were your favorite games this year? There were a lot of games that came out. I didn't get a chance to play a lot of them. Tell me what your favorite ones were, and make sure you check out SuperSmash77. Alright guys, that's all for us. See you later. Bye.
See you.